Hello and welcome to the GameSpot stage here at E3 2016. I'm Lucy, joined by Scott Butterworth and Piers and Alex from Guerrilla Cambridge to talk RIGS Mechanized Combat. Guys, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
What's the reception been like to RIGS?
It's been awesome. Really, we've been showing the multiplayer 3-on-3 and getting a lot of people playing the sports matches, and the reception has just been great. People, when they take the headset off, have just been blown away. So it's been awesome.
So I mean, like, top line, how do you describe RIGS to people?
So basically, with PlayStation VR, we're trying to take first-person competitive shooters to the next level. So RIGS is a arena-based shooter where it's 50 years in the future. The world of motorsports and combat have collided to create the Mechanized Combat League, and you, the player, with the power of PlayStation VR, become a sports star of the future. So you're going and you're piloting these 6-meter-tall, super streamlined, expensive mechanized suits in packed arenas all the way around the world in front of huge crowds. And we've really captured the drama of sports, and with PlayStation VR, getting the player to be right in the heart of the action, in the driving seat of these RIGS as they're going and competing for the title. So it's been great.
So what kind of modes can players expect?
So the one we're showing at E3 at the minute is a game called Power Slam. It's been described as basketball on steroids, and in this mode you play 3-on-3, and you take down your opponents, and if you take them down enough, you go into a mode called Overdrive. When you're in Overdrive, you can make your way to the top of the arena. There's a kind of hoop there, an enormous hoop, obviously, to get a 6-meter rig through it. You jump through, you score a goal, and there's a lot of offensive and defensive plays going on there, so you can block people from doing that.
Is there going to be any kind of, like, this sounds insane to not only play but also to watch. Is there going to be some kind of like spectator mode that people can view? Ways to easily view matches that other friends are playing?
So obviously we, with PlayStation VR, we have the social screen, and actually we're demoing that at the minute. There's a lot of people actually watching the game as it's being played out, and a lot of cheering going on. We will be long-term looking to put a more dedicated spectator mode into the game, but the game has actually really been crafted visually and in terms of gameplay for people to watch, and it's a great experience.
I think it's one of the things we've found when we've been at the shows. We've been at a number since E3 last year when the game was announced, and when people are watching the match being played, we've managed to capture the drama of sports. It's like the underdogs making a comeback, someone stealing a last-minute win. People are getting really excited, just watching the matches as they play out, which has been awesome.
Obviously, Sony's big push at E3 this year has been VR. I imagine this game's been in development for how long?
We started concept nearly 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We obviously announced E3 last year. We're working very hard to become a launch title now, so the team back in Cambridge are burning the midnight oil to get things across the line while we're out promoting it.
So, I mean, were you working closely with Sony? I assume like the final specs on what was then Project Morpheus weren't final. Were you kind of suggesting things to them, or was it like this joint learning experience of all the companies, all Sony's first party, learning how to really master VR? So,
and obviously as a first party studio, we've been there day one with PlayStation VR, or Morpheus as it used to be called, and the hardware and software teams work very, very closely together, so there is a feedback loop in there. They give us new pieces of equipment, we play with it, we come up with great ideas, we feed back to them, so it's a really healthy cyclical kind of relationship that we have with the hardware team.
And it's been really great for us as we've been going through and making the game as we're learning more and more about working in VR and taking advantage of what it really brings to the table, which is that taking the player and really immersing them into the game world as never before. So with RIGS, we want them to feel like a sports star of the future, so they can look around the pits before the match, they can see their team of race engineers around them, and then pilot into the arena and hear the roar of the crowd. So really placing them in the game world's been a really awesome thing to achieve.
Well, Scott, you've played the game, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I actually got a chance to play it when PSVR was sort of announced, unveiled at, let's see, what was that? Maybe GDC back in March. Yeah, and I had a lot of fun. And actually, one common complaint that people sometimes level against VR is it makes them feel motion sick. And obviously, this is a very active game. You're kind of jumping around quite a bit through these big arenas. But I really didn't feel any of that. I think in part because it's a DualShock 4 games, you're actually controlling it with your traditional controller. You're just sort of able to look around. But have you guys been sort of working to prevent people from feeling ill or finding ways to let people experience this fully without having any issues?
A huge push. I mean, it's a major focus on us to keep the game as comfortable as possible. So in terms of creating the cockpit as you described, to ground people in there, to give them a point of reference, to making sure the environments are built in ways so that the motion is really smooth and fluid. We've done a lot of work on this because we want people to have as much fun as possible. RIGS is a fun game, and that anything that's detracting from that is just really, really bad for us. So we've worked very hard on that.
What are the kind of challenges you came up against developing your first title in VR?
So one of the things that actually when people put the headset on for the first time, one of the things that we ask them to do is to look around and be aware of it's a full 360 degree world, and you have that complete freedom. So from the art point of view, one thing that's been really challenging is because the player has that freedom to look around. When you're piloting your rig, you can lean and you can examine all the weapons and the workings of your rig. So we've had to go real extra step to make sure that everything is meticulously crafted and holds up to the intense scrutiny of people leaning around and examining everything up really, really up close. So we've gone the extra step with on the art side to make sure all the mechanics really hold up, and that's been a challenge. But it adds to the just the believability of the world, and those touches when you're trying to insert someone into that world are really important.
I think from a design perspective, it's the things that we didn't know about VR when we started. Just simple things like how do you aim in the game? We're so used to first-person shooters, just putting a targeting reticule on the screen. That doesn't work in virtual reality because it's a 2D image. So, just simple things like creating lasers that actually point into the environment, all of the front end. Everything is a learning experience in VR. So that's been probably the most exciting thing. But actually, probably the biggest challenge for us is explaining to people what VR is without them actually trying it. Because people go, "Oh, it's a 3D game that's on your face?" It's like, no. When you sit in this, you actually look around it, and that's the magic of it. It feels very, very natural, and you feel absorbed into it. When you get it right, you have a moment of presence where you are actually in the game, and that's the magic of VR.
I will say that I think cockpit games really lend themselves very naturally to VR experiences. But what I really love about your game is it's not just combat. I mean, a lot of cockpit games are like flight games, like E-Valkyrie, things like that. But you actually added this other layer of it's now a sports game in addition to a combat game. So one, I was curious sort of where that combat, that marriage of sport and fighting came from, and two, what other sports people can expect to play or versions of sports. Since this, what we're looking at now, kind of resembles basketball. What other sports are you borrowing from, and what other modes can we expect?
So the concept came from a brainstorming session back in Cambridge some time ago. We were looking to move on from Killzone Mercenary and what we were going to do next. We wanted to continue our heritage in first-person shooters, and I can't remember who came up with it, but the idea of fusing sports and first-person shooters was just like, actually, that could really work. Okay, so if I'm in a first-person shooter and I'm being shot at, I don't want to die. Sports people don't tend to die for their sport on a regular basis. So, okay, maybe we should put them in a shield. Oh, mech. Yeah, that could work. So that was kind of where it was. But we were also developing it for PlayStation VR. And we knew that, surrounding people actually in the mech would help an awful lot with them understanding how they were moving and orientating themselves in the environment. So it sort of holistically came together at that point.
And the sports brings a lot to the table. So we have the really colourful sports liveries, and it allows us to celebrate the player, make them feel like they're a sports star, and they can go into these packed arenas. Because with VR, of course, you get a great sense of scale. So not only do you have the 6 metre tall streamlined athletic sporting machines, you also go into these huge arenas which you can race around, and you get a great sense of scale. So
you get the roar of the crowd when you kill an opponent. It's great.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the concerns about VR, certainly like from a gaming standpoint, is that a lot of the companies are releasing experiences, like little tastes of things. So we've seen, we're getting a Battlefront X-Wing mission, we're getting a Batman mission. It's not a full-fledged experience. How do you make a game that's still grand in scope to a player base that maybe doesn't know that it exists yet? We hear experiences, we don't have full games yet.
That's actually our mission this E3, is to explain to people that what we've been showing in RIGS as a demo at a number of trade shows up until this point is actually a full game. It's a full game with an online experience, 3v3, and an offline experience as well. So we have a full career mode where you're playing through leagues and tournaments, where you can purchase rigs, build your garage, hire other pilots, and compete. So we are making a full game, and that's kind of our announcement really at E3, is we're not a demo. We are a full game.
Is that pressure though? Is that to be like, to find the killer app that the VR kind of needs, that people want? Is that the pressure that you're feeling?
I think the most important thing for us is just to make a great game for VR, and not only take advantage of what VR has to offer, but give that full game experience. And like Piers was saying, we've got the single player career stuff, we've got the online multiplayer. But also within the matches themselves, there's enough choice there and enough tactical options that's a very deep experience. So whilst people can play the game very easily and enjoy it, there's a lot of depth there. So it's a lot of depth to master. So with the depth in the matches themselves, tactically, with your choice of rig, your tactics, your power modes, and then with the depth in the career and the single player and how you configure your team, I think there's enough there we want people to keep on coming back and enjoying rigs for a long time.
Guerrilla's always known as, the kill zone studio, but you guys are really making your mark now. You're branching out. What are the exciting things can we expect from you guys in the future?
Well, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? Exclusive galore. We're going to push on with rigs for the minute, and I'll let you ask the Horizon team what they're going to do.
What kind of obviously you've been playtesting the game a whole bunch. What are really unexpected things you've seen players do in the game?
One of the things so looking around behind you, that's the first thing we ask people to do, because that really takes people by surprise, because they'll be looking around and go, oh yeah, I can look around a bit, and then they look behind and there's stuff there. That's incredible. The other thing there's moments of magic that people are blown away by. So when you're in the rig and you're piloting it, you can look down and see your hands, which is cool. But because we're tracking the lights on the headset, when you lean in the real world, we've got it so that your pilot will lean with you and match you. That one-to-one relationship is quite a subtle thing, but it just blows people away. It's really.
I think the best story, or most magical story I've heard, is someone playing Power Sam. In their rig, they're charging up the ramp, they leap to go in the lamp and actually throw themselves forward, as if they're actually throwing it. I mean, that's a great moment of someone being really consumed by the game.
It'd be hard not to do that. You feel so connected.
And just the excitement that the sports matches bring as well. We've been at events where people have literally been screaming and shouting, really, really passionate about it, as they would do if they were playing a real sports match.
It sounds like when we play Rocket League.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Piers, Alex, thank you so much for joining us. When can we get our hands on rigs?
We are aiming for day one launch, so we'll be there when the hardware arrives.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And guys, for more coverage from this year's E3, make sure you stay tuned to GameSpot.com.
You're watching the GameSpot stage, brought to you by Airheads Bytes.